It is Christmas Eve, which means many people will be doing some last-minute shopping to make sure they're able to get all their presents under the tree. Good afternoon. People are expected to pack malls across the city to cross some final items off their Christmas lists.
Businesses are expecting a final rush before people unwrap their gifts this evening or tomorrow morning. CTV's Beth McDonnell has been speaking with shoppers. She joins us live now with more. Merry Christmas, Beth.
Merry Christmas, Pauline and Nathan. There's not much time left for the big day. Christmas is tomorrow, and we are here at Yorkdale Mall with last-minute shoppers. People were here before the stores opened, waiting to get in and pick up those presents. And the mall says this is pretty typical. Every year on Christmas Eve, there are always people who leave gifts to the last minute. The mall opened at 10 this morning, and Yorkdale says it's been a little slower to the start of the day, probably because of the weather. There is ample parking right now. The mall expects the busiest time to be around the 2 to 3 p.m. mark before the doors close at 5 o'clock.
I like the hustle and bustle. It's part of living in the city. It's part of Toronto. I mean, we just got this big snowstorm, so it just kind of feels like Christmas. That's the whole point of it all, right?
My mission is just to get whatever I can really quickly and get in and get out before the crowd takes me down.
Shoppers will benefit from some early Boxing Day sales. Those will start today and last through to Thursday. So if you are a last-minute shopper, you do have some upside.
I would say the mall is busy, but the crowds really aren't too heavy right now. And I did see a few parking spots out in the front by the 401. The mall does close at 5 o'clock, and so time is ticking. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Pauline, Nathan, back to you.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Beth. Police have made an arrest in a sexual assault investigation earlier this month. 35-year-old Michael Leclef of Orleans is facing one count of sexual assault. He's accused of sexually assaulting a woman at Keele subway station in the early morning hours of December 14th.
York Regional Police have arrested a man in connection with an attempted auto theft earlier this month. 27-year-old Rahim Matinjan of Quebec is facing several charges in connection with the incident. Police say they were called to the area of Ina Lane and Mostar Street shortly after 2 a.m. on December 19th after someone reported a vehicle theft in progress. The suspect ran when officers arrived and was arrested after a short foot pursuit. He was found to be in possession of a key fob programmer device. Matimjean is facing several charges, including theft of a motor vehicle, possession of break-in instruments, and disguise with intent.
10 people have been arrested in connection with a kidnapping investigation in Brampton. Peel police were called to a home near Kennedy Road and Conservation Drive on December 17th and rescued 3 victims. They also executed search warrants at the home and seized 2 guns. 10 people were found inside the home and arrested. They face a number of charges, including kidnapping, forcible confinement, and assault causing bodily harm.
2 people were injured after an SUV and TTC bus collided overnight. The crash happened near Dufferin and Yorkdale Road around 12:30 a.m. 2 people were taken to hospital, but it's not clear if they were aboard the bus or riding in the SUV. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. And a man in his 20s has been arrested for impaired driving following a collision in North York. It happened shortly after 12:30 a.m. near Keele Street and Calvington Drive. 2 vehicles collided in the area. No injuries have been reported in connection with the crash.
Ontario's Animal Welfare Services says it's working to become more transparent following pressure to open up about its years-long probe of marine land. The organization, which was founded in 2020, released its first ever news release earlier this month. It was in relation to the death of 5 dogs and the distress of 24 others linked to 96 charges laid against the Hamilton woman. The chief animal welfare inspector is not providing more information about the charges, but says her organization has been facing pressure to become more transparent. Returning to our top story, the lead up to Christmas, many will be enjoying a meal with family over the holidays.
And charitable organizations in the city are making sure as many people as possible have that opportunity. CTV's Siobhan Morris has more on one organization focused on giving back this holiday season. Hi, Siobhan.
Hello, we are near the Salvation Army at Queen and Sherbourne. We've seen over the last hour a number of volunteers with different organizations pull up and unload food and other supplies ahead of the holidays, hoping to spread some warmth. We talked to one of those organizations, Human Concern International. They'll be arriving here later this afternoon with a team of mostly young volunteers really focused on the idea of staying warm in the soul, in the body, and in the tummy too. So they'll be arriving with prepackaged kits that will include things to stay warm in the winter weather. Things like hats, mittens, ponchos, blankets, as well as a warm meal that includes chicken, a biscuit, and a drink. We talked to a representative of that organization earlier this hour about what they're trying to accomplish and who they're trying to reach today.
Primarily what we would like to do is show the people that we in Toronto, we nationally, we all care about those that are here in Canada, and we want to encourage Canadians to give back to their community, especially in these holiday seasons. It doesn't matter, irrespective of race, religion, politics. We all get cold and we all get hungry, and we all want to give back and ensure that everyone is taken care of as Canadians.
Now, Mohammed Patel said that most of the volunteers arriving this afternoon are teenagers eager to give back over their Christmas break. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Siobhan. We have more news in a moment, but first, here is a live look at the city this afternoon.
Thank you.
Our first look at the forecast is cloudy, much better conditions than yesterday. Not bad if you're heading outside for any activity, maybe doing some last-minute shopping or going for a skate. Not nearly as cold as what we've experienced over the past few days either, as the cold air moves out. Now let's take a look at the current conditions. On our satellite radar, you can see not much happening, just some clouds there and no major systems coming our way. Right now we're a bit above seasonal, but pretty much where we should be. +1 in Hamilton, +1 in London, -2, a little bit chillier north of the city. The islands, it's currently +1. At Pearson Airport, we're sitting at 0, and we're moving up to +2. So again, a bit above seasonal. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast a little bit later on in the show.
Halifax is one of Canada's fastest growing cities, and that growth comes with significant change.
Now, researchers in Nova Scotia's capital are outlining just how many historic buildings are disappearing. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has the story.
St. Mary's University archaeologist Jonathan Fowler is sounding an alarm with a new study. Fowler says Halifax's historic architecture is slowly being wiped away as the city continues to grow.
You look at the maps and you see the old Halifax of 1878, but we've layered that over the modern city. So you can compare what was there and what's there now.
Fowler has unveiled new research that measures urban change as an academic exercise.
Cities have always been about change. Cities are very dynamic. That's okay. But in a historic city like Halifax, we have to be deliberate about that change. We have to be intelligent about it, or we're going to wake up in a city that doesn't look like anything we know.
Many of the older structures have disappeared. On this map, the red buildings are gone and the green buildings are still standing. According to Fowler, Halifax had almost 9,000 buildings in 1878. Since then, only 1,143 have survived. That's an attrition rate of 87.2%. Historian Blair Bede hopes these findings serve as a wake-up call to help preserve Halifax's history that dates back centuries.
We've just not evaluated the buildings to say which ones are old and which ones are historically old that we want to keep.
There have been many changes over the decades, but it should be noted Halifax remains a city rich in history.
And there's a lot preserved in certain places. The rate of attrition or the attrition across the city has not been uniform.
Some parts of the city remain unchanged. Other areas have been torn down and rebuilt. Fowler hopes his study leads to a preservation of some of the remaining older properties. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Police in Hong Kong have issued arrest warrants for 6 pro-democracy activists, including 2 people who reside in Canada. Hong Kong police issued a bounty of $1 million Hong Kong dollars for information on Joseph Tay and Victor Ho for alleged national security offenses. Tay, who is 62, is a former Hong Kong TV personality and the co-founder of the Canada-based organization Hong Konger Station. 69-year-old Victor Ho is a veteran journalist based in British Columbia. He has previously testified on Chinese foreign interference in Ottawa. In 2020, Canada suspended its extradition treaty with Hong Kong over the region's controversial security law.
Calls are growing louder for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign, but it appears he will not make a decision before the new year.
He is now on his Christmas holidays as the Liberal Party game plans ahead of a likely election in the new year. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Those were the Prime Minister's parting words when he left Parliament Hill on Friday. With questions still swirling about Justin Trudeau's next steps, the Globe and Mail is reporting that he doesn't plan to step down over the holidays. Instead, the embattled Liberal leader intends to go on a trip to British Columbia with his family. While Trudeau may have his sights set on hitting the slopes, calls have been mounting all week from within his caucus for him to instead take a walk in the snow.
I think people feel very negatively, or rather negatively, about all the options on the ballot if we were to have an election right now. And it would be nice to offer them somebody to vote for as opposed to against.
Ontario caucus members met virtually over the weekend, and of the more than 50 MPs said to be on the call, Liberals say not a single participant spoke in favor of Trudeau staying on. Since Chrystia Freeland's bombshell resignation 1 week ago, Trudeau has been seeking advice from those he trusts about next steps. And while some within his party hope he makes a decision soon, it seems the Liberal campaign team is already setting up contingencies. Its first pre-election ad campaign,
does he just not get it?
Makes no mention of Trudeau as leader. Meanwhile, in a fresh fundraising email to supporters noting that this is going to be the last Christmas before the next campaign, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said his party has never been closer to defeating what he calls the NDP Liberal coalition. With Donald Trump taking office in less than a month, Trudeau met with his cabinet committee on Canada-U.S. relations. Though political observers say that while he may be planning Canada's counter to tariffs, it remains to be seen if Trudeau will still be the Prime Minister by the time they're imposed.
There's definitely a prospect of him stepping down after the holidays. I don't think there's much prospect of him remaining in office. I just don't know how he's going to be able to continue on.
Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has released his Christmas message for 2024.
Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. This is a time of year to slow down, to rest, and to connect with the people you love most. It's a moment to put our phones down, to put our politics aside, even when that one cousin makes it really hard, and to focus on what matters. For Christians, it's a time to celebrate the birth of Christ and think about his story of kindness, forgiveness, and faith. The lessons of his life are universal, and they inspire and comfort people every time they're told and retold. For so many, the holidays are a time of big family gatherings and feasts, of gifts and celebrations. But maybe it's a very hard time for you. If you're grieving, worried, or alone, this can be the toughest time of the year. It can be the loneliest. So let us all check in on the people in our lives who've not had an easy time this year and who may be needing us more than we know. For a lot of Canadians, Christmas is not a holiday at all. So thank you to our brave first responders, CAF members, healthcare and essential workers, and everyone who's on a job right now so that others can stay home safely. You embody what Christmas is really about: giving. Gifts, food, and service to those around us. I wish joy to everyone who's celebrating today and comfort to those who are suffering. Wherever you are, I hope you find light and hope for the year ahead. Merry Christmas.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and his inner circle are continuing to needle Canada and other countries. In a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, Trump's son Eric shared an image which appears to show the incoming president purchasing Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal on Amazon. Since his election in November, Trump has repeatedly referred to Canada as the 51st state and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as its governor. He's also mused about purchasing Greenland and taking back control of the Panama Canal. Well, 2024 was a whirlwind year for Donald Trump, including surviving 2 assassination attempts.
The man behind the MAGA movement capped off the year by securing another 4 years in the White House. CTV's Joy Malbon has more on the year that was in U.S. politics.
The 47th President of the United States.
When Donald Trump walked onto that stage at Mar-a-Lago on election night, it marked a comeback for the ages.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
The twice impeached convicted felon had just retaken the White House.
Former President Donald Trump will be our next president.
What a moment, what a year for Donald Trump.
Free Trump! Free Trump!
He was also fighting for his freedom.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial.
Now almost all those criminal legal trials over election interference will likely go away.
To break out of the pack.
So confident was Trump, he didn't even bother to debate his Republican challengers.
But we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate.
The former president had just one hurdle.
When you get knocked down, you get back up.
An aging President Joe Biden, convinced only he could take on Trump, the race between some of the oldest contenders in presidential politics.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with.
For Biden, it proved to be a catastrophic mistake.
Dealing with everything we have.
He stumbled, lost his train of thought, and it was seen by millions at their only debate in June.
We finally beat Medicare.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Thank you. Please be seated.
A few weeks later, at a conference of NATO leaders, Biden called the Ukrainian president,
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
Vladimir Putin. The whispers about Biden's age grew louder, so did the pressure for him to step aside.
Take a look at what happened.
And then came this. At a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, a would-be assassin shot at Trump, killing a supporter and missing the former president by just centimeters. It became one of the most seminal photos in modern American history. Trump seemed unbeatable. Walking on stage days later at the Republican convention with a bandaged ear, hailed as a hero. Less than a week later,
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
We choose freedom.
in stepped Kamala Harris. Breathing new life and momentum into the party, Democrats seemed unstoppable.
Ours is a fight for the future.
At her debate with Donald Trump,
people can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
And out of nowhere, Trump's false claim about immigrants took on a life of its own.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats.
In the end, it didn't matter. What did was frustration over the economy, the border, Trump promising to fix it all, deport millions of undocumented migrants, and rethink support for Ukraine and foreign wars. Trump seized on America's discontent and a country demanding change.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good.
And with a commanding victory and unfettered power, Donald Trump did the near unthinkable.
Trump is the man, and I'm with that, so I got no problem with him being the man that he is.
Stepping toward the next 4 years, President-elect again. Joy Malbon, CTV News, Washington.
Former U.S. President Bill Clinton has been admitted to hospital in Washington after developing a fever. A statement from his office says the 78-year-old was hospitalized yesterday afternoon for testing and observation. A representative for the 42nd U.S. president says Clinton is awake and alert and in good spirits.
3 people were rescued in California after a powerful storm tore off part of the Santa Cruz Pier.
Personnel that fell into the water were rescued, 2 by our folks, 1 self-rescued.
3 people ended up in the water, clinging to pieces of debris. Witnesses captured the rescue on video. 2 men were carried to shore, while a third swam to safety. The wharf had previously been damaged by storms in February. Well, Christmas celebrations are in full swing, and a museum in Quebec is taking people back in time to celebrate the holidays.
It's offering a glimpse into how people marked the holidays many years ago. CTV's Denise Roberts has more.
In all the hustle and bustle of the holidays, the Greenwood Centre for Living History in Hudson is hosting a different kind of Christmas. You won't find flashing lights or tinsel on this tree. The decorations are handmade and in some cases edible. It's the work of many volunteers, including Catherine Lamb, who wanted to find a way to celebrate the season and help maintain this nearly 300-year-old home.
That we had this beautiful locale filled with historic and lovely artifacts, and we thought, what if we tried to decorate Christmas, Greenwood for Christmas in a way that it would have been done in the early years.
The committee researched Victorian Christmas decorations, things like dried orange slices that look like stained glass, and boughs of foraged greens to adorn the sills and mantels. There are also candles and bows and antique toys under the tree. The simplicity is in stark contrast to the consumerism and excesses of the season, according to Lamb.
You know, we need a little respite for that. We need real things, real music, real smells, real things to look at.
This old-fashioned way of celebrating Christmas attracts visitors each year. The event helps raise funds to keep the museum going. Carolers sing and fiddlers play. There are also cookies and hot apple cider. Executive Director Sandy Rassico says the experience transports visitors to a simpler time.
Perhaps this is a reminder that it's not all about all the shopping and all the stress of Christmas, that when you just sit down for a little bit in the silence and you look around and you listen to things in a more calm way, that you can allow yourself to be like a child again and be excited about Christmas.
She says it's not an exhibit, but an experience, one that changes people and causes them to reconsider some of their own traditions.
I think by visiting Greenwood, you get a sense of what it was like in the past, but perhaps how you could change your Christmas a little bit in the future to make it more original, more special.
Taking some cues from Christmas past to savor the season. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
All right, back to the forecast. The big question, will it be a white Christmas? According to Environment Canada, the answer is yes. Why? Technically, you need 2 centimeters of snow on the ground Christmas morning at 7 a.m. We're going to have that. What about a perfect Christmas? Snow falling roughly 2 centimeters Christmas Day. That's not going to happen. So maybe not perfect, but close enough. But I say this, if you get the gift that you want, it's a perfect Christmas. As for the conditions outside right now, comfortable if you're heading out doing any last-minute shopping or maybe going for a skate, pretty good. Not nearly as cold as yesterday. Road conditions also much better today. It's still slippery in many areas. And again, the good news, we're going to have a white Christmas. So we'll give you a look at the long-range forecast after the break. Stay with us.
Transport Minister Anita Anand has taken care of one of her most important duties this Christmas Eve, giving Santa the green light to take off.
Don't forget, we need your urgent approval to clear Santa's flight. He's scheduled to take off soon. It's one of your new responsibilities as Minister of Transport.
I've been so looking forward to doing this.
Everything that flies over Canadian airspace has to be identified by the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD. That's why Anand has given Santa clearance to enter Canadian airspace as NORAD tracks the big man in red.
We use the radars, our network of satellites, and our fighter jets that we use to protect North America every single day. Just today, we have a special aviator in the sky with Santa Claus. I think it's important to note that our North Warning System radars that are actually arrayed across Canada and Alaska give us the first indicators that Santa's lifted off.
NORAD has been tracking Santa since the 1950s. The tradition began after a young child accidentally called the Defense Command Operations Center instead of a department store. A live Santa tracker can be found on NORAD's website.
Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers. You don't pay unless they win.
So travel by air seems to be clear. Travel on the roads, not too bad today. A bit of snow on the smaller streets, but that's okay.
Yeah, big difference. Last night heading home was bad. Roads were icy and slippery. Thankfully, there were fewer cars out there, so that was one good thing.
It was pretty.
Yeah,
Very
it was pretty. And I know the kids were happy because they'll be able to toboggan today. But the conditions much different today. The roads are clear, visibility is good, and it's just a better day to drive-wise. So that's a good thing, especially for those who are doing their last-minute Christmas shopping. Looking at the current conditions, we are still where we should be right now. That cold air has moved out. We're at 0 in Toronto, -7 in Ottawa, -1 in Wyerton, +1 in Windsor. So pretty good. And the highs, again, where we should be, going up to +2 in Hamilton, 2 in Niagara Falls, and 2 in Toronto a little bit later today. And then the overnight lows, not too bad. A bit of a wind chill, but not severe. -4 in Toronto, -6 in Waterloo. And looking at the satellite radar, big picture, we do have clouds, but that's pretty much it. There's no major systems that are coming our way. And then you can see that the cold air that was in our city a couple of days ago, and remember how cold it was over the weekend, but that's all moving out. So conditions just overall much better. And if you're heading out for a drive, as I was saying, cloudy but clear, visibility not an issue. I know that picture makes you think that it is, but it's not. The roads are pretty good, but still slippery in some areas. So remember to drive to the conditions and to definitely not speed. Long range for Christmas Day tomorrow. We're going to have a white Christmas. Snow will be on the ground, but no additional snow is expected, which is good if you're visiting family tomorrow, the high -1. For Boxing Day, pretty good if you're heading out to take advantage of those deals. Sunshine as well. And then for Friday, look at that. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've got the warm air coming in. We're going to be well above seasonal. The high for Friday +5. For Saturday and Sunday, highs of 8 degrees on both days, but showers are expected. At least it's not snow if you're concerned about driving conditions. And then next week, Monday, for those that might have to go back to the office, conditions are pretty good. A bit of sun, a bit of cloud, the high of 6. So the story really is temperatures are swinging back up. We'll give you a recap of the weather conditions a little bit later in the show.
All right, thanks so much, Nathan. The World Junior Hockey Championship is set to begin on Boxing Day. Ottawa is hosting the annual tournament for the first time since 2009. The first game on Boxing Day will begin at 12 noon and will see Sweden take on Slovakia. Canada will hit the ice Thursday evening to begin their tournament against Finland, and you can catch all the action on TSN.
WNBA star Caitlin Clark has been named the Female Athlete of the Year by the Associated Press. Clark won Rookie of the Year after being picked first overall in the WNBA draft. Before that, she led Iowa to the national championship game. Clark is the 4th women's basketball player to be honored as the AP's Female Athlete of the Year since 1931. Olympic gymnast Simone Biles finished 2nd in the voting.
And still to come, putting a twist on holiday classics, a husband and wife duo are sharing their reimagined versions of popular Christmas songs. Many people have been playing Christmas music for weeks ahead of the big day tomorrow.
Now, a pair of local musicians are putting their own spin on some Christmas classics. CTV's Carol Charles has the story.
Consider this basement studio Joy and Larnell's workshop. Both accomplished musicians, Larnell has been playing drums since the age of 2. His foundation of learning was church.
When I play the drums, there's this energy and electricity, and it's kind of like this wind that's kind of passing through my arms.
Joy began playing the steel pan 20 years ago. Again, the church is where she got her start.
I love it. I love steel pan because I love playing live music. I love playing with other musicians and being able to have a conversation.
Joy and Larnell developed the Caribbean Christmas Mixtape Volume 1 through live performances as part of Toronto's Jazz FM 91 annual concert series. From live performances, they captured their sound and released it on vinyl and CD. The goal, to add some Caribbean flair to traditional, yet very familiar Christmas songs.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what
fun. So you'll hear Edelweiss on there, Julie Andrews, Christopher Plummer. This is something that's been handed down from our parents, and it stays with me. I know all the words. Sound of music, all the words.
Quand tu descendras du ciel.
Petit Papa Noel, Old Toy Trains, allows me to reflect on my childhood and my love for Zouk music.
Songs which were played over and over in their households, surrounded by a musical multi-instrumental family. They were introduced to diverse Caribbean genres including Zouk, soca, calypso, reggae, R&B, and gospel, gleaned from their roots in Antigua and St. Kitts.
Growing up in my house, my dad had a cassette tape that he recorded all of his arrangements of Christmas carols, and we listened to that every Christmas.
Our daughter walks around singing our version of Sleigh Ride, bum, 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 dun, 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 and then she'll sing the horn part. Dun, ba, da.
They even tried to teach me a few notes. Joy and Larnell have been working on this album since 2021, and they are proud of the final product.
I want people to be excited. I would love people to feel the warmth from the music, feel that genuine spirit of togetherness.
We've been married for 14 years, and it's actually just a joy. It's a joy. It's a joy to be able to create with him.
Joy and Larnell encourage family and friends to celebrate the holidays with music, joy, and laughter, especially during Christmas time. Carol Charles, CTV News.
NASA astronauts aboard the International Space Station have offered their Christmas wishes.
Welcome to the International Space Station as we get ready for the Christmas holidays. It's a great time of year up here. We get to spend it with all of our family up on the International Space Station. There's 7 of us up here, and so we're going to get to enjoy company together. And one of the best things that I like about Christmas is the preparation and just getting ready, the anticipation, everybody getting together and preparing stuff and just getting ready for the holiday. And a couple little things we have here with us to just prepare, which will be sort of fun in a couple days.
The crew offered their thoughts on the holidays and thanked those who support them in their work aboard the space station. Well, astronomers will be getting a cosmic gift this Christmas Eve.
A NASA probe is set to zoom past the sun closer than any other spacecraft in history. CTV John Venevali Rao has the story.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Launched 6 years ago aboard a massive 23-story rocket, NASA's Parker Solar Probe is designed to do what was once unthinkable: fly into the sun's outer atmosphere, where temperatures can soar to over 1 million degrees.
Very, very hot and a very, very hostile environment. But this is an amazing feat of engineering and science.
Dubbed a mission to touch the sun, on Christmas Eve, the probe is set to break a pair of records, not only getting closer to the sun than any human-made object has before, but also smashing a speed record, cruising at more than 700,000 kilometers an hour.
So it's a really, really close flyby. And of course, the spacecraft will be traveling as fast as it's ever done.
This is what will keep everything on board cool enough to function: a carbon composite heat shield that incredibly will keep the instruments at room temperature. And while the probe has cruised by the sun before, never has it made such a close approach.
To have a spacecraft fly anywhere near that type of an oven is unprecedented.
The sun's outer atmosphere is known as the corona, and mysteriously it's much hotter than the sun's surface.
What an event to witness! Oh my gosh!
It was visible during this year's total solar eclipse across parts of North America.
We've been looking at the sun in an amazing amount of detail for many years, but from a distance. And there's only so much you can learn. And to ultimately get the other pieces of the puzzle, you've got to go where the action is.
Scientists want to learn more about the violent flares and the solar winds, a stream of charged particles emitted by the sun that led to those brilliant displays of the northern lights this year, seen as far south as Florida. Those particles can also disrupt satellites and power grids. Scientists hope to get a signal from the probe on December 27th to let them know if the flyby was a success. And after that, the holiday gift of precious data should start rolling in. John Benavalli-Rouse, CTV News, Toronto.
Still to come, it's been a good year for the markets in Canada and the U.S., and that trend continued this morning here in Toronto. Details after the break. Well, this is one of the busiest times of year for travel, and that often comes with delays and disruptions, which can be costly for travelers.
Now, the federal government is proposing new rules to help people, and it's all focused on the airline's obligations. CTV's Alex Carpa reports.
The new proposed rule changes are now providing some clarity to what compensation Canadian travelers could expect when their flights are either significantly delayed or cancelled.
I think that we're going to see a consistent and continuous pushback by the airlines.
Some of the rules would require airlines to provide refunds within 15 days if a passenger prefers to be reimbursed rather than rebooked. There are, however, exceptional circumstances that would circumvent these rules.
There will always be a loophole. And to be fair, any company is going to try to get out of paying compensation and they'll drag things out. And that's where we're seeing those long delays in the courts.
The new rules are now open to a 75-day feedback period. Gabor Lukács says around half of the flight delays and more than 2/3 of cancellations would still not qualify for compensation.
I'm very frustrated because I feel that the government is just rebranding the same old loopholes just by different name, by calling it exceptional circumstances.
Some passengers just hope they will actually see those compensations.
Some of the travelers will be more comfortable traveling, knowing that if there is a disruption, they may not be subject to sleeping in an airport or eating at McDonald's at their own cost.
I do think if you get stuck somewhere overnight, it would be nice to be compensated for that.
There is definitely value in making the systems a little bit more uniform with countries that sort of are like-minded.
The federal agency estimates the proposed amendments could cost around 99 cents per passenger for the airlines annually, or about $512 million over a 10-year period after they come into effect. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
American Airlines has resumed flight operations after temporarily grounding all flights because of a technical issue. Earlier today, the Federal Aviation Administration posted a nationwide ground stop order for all airline flights at the company's request. It was not immediately clear what the cause of the issue was or how many flights were impacted. However, service has since been restored. On this side of the border, Pearson Airport says its system is back up, but it's warning American Airlines passengers of potential impacts throughout the day.
It's a deal which could change the global auto landscape. Honda and Nissan are in talks to merge.
The Japanese automakers say the move is aimed at combating their rivals in China. CTV's Mike LeCouture has more on what it could mean for Canadian consumers.
Build up capabilities to fight them, including the current emerging forces by 2030, says Honda CEO, adding otherwise, we will be beaten. If they do merge, it would create the third largest automotive group in terms of sales, behind Toyota and Volkswagen. It would put the combined company in a better position to compete with Tesla and Chinese-owned BYD.
They've built up these plants in China to the point where they have saturated their market. And now, in order to keep the plants going, they need to export.
Still, the former CEO of Nissan doesn't see these talks going anywhere because the companies don't complement each other.
They are strong in the same fields. They are weak in the same fields. Both of them have very developed technologies. That means, from an industrial point of view, there is duplication everywhere.
A merger of the three would be the largest shift in the automotive landscape since Fiat Chrysler and the PSA Group became Stellantis. Experts say that consolidation is a trend.
But it's also an effort to bulk up and gear up for what's coming down the pipe
which is this incredible transformation that's going on in terms of the shift towards EVs.
A merger could mean fewer models produced, but higher quality.
We may see better product from Honda and Nissan as they share components and development.
Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Canadian and U.S. stocks rose this morning as investors prepared for an early end to trading.
Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there, here are your business headlines. 2024 has been good for the stock market, with Canada up about 18% and the US ahead more than 25%. Shares moved higher this morning, with markets due to close at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Christmas holiday. Toronto's benchmark index was lifted by Shopify, whose shares have jumped more than 50% this year. Bitcoin, meanwhile, has flagged in the last inning of a record-breaking year. The digital asset changed hands at just over $93,000 US this morning, roughly $14,000 below the all-time peak set on December 17th. Diminished expectations for US interest rate cuts have cooled speculative ardor. And finally, artificial intelligence dominated investing in 2024. Expect to hear lots about quantum computing next year. Exploiting the physics of the subatomic realm, a race is on to develop fantastically powerful computers. Some stocks linked to quantum computing have soared tenfold or more this year. Players in the industry include D-Wave Quantum, Rigetti Computing, and Arkit Quantum. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
And coming up, Toronto is taking on the role of the Land of Oz in an annual holiday production. We'll have more on the play when we come back. Toronto's annual holiday pantomime is back, and this time the city has been cast as Oz in the familiar tale.
As CTV's Andrea Case reports, there's something for everyone in this musical retelling.
Since graduating from Sheridan College, actor Vanessa Sears has had a connection to The Wizard of Oz.
I actually got to play Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, the musical, at Young People's Theatre in Toronto very soon after graduating college, and that was one of my first big roles in Toronto. So it feels really full circle to have that reference, the movie reference, Wicked, and now to be doing this panto. It's kind of an incredible journey to get to spend so much time in Oz.
She won a Dora Award for Outstanding Performance in Young People's Theatre production of The Wizard of Oz. Now she's playing the Wicked Witch in Canadian Stage's production of The Wizard of Oz, a totally awesome family musical.
Having the first couple of previews to really test out that relationship with the audience has been so gratifying. They are so engaged, they are so locked in, they're booing for the Wicked Witch, which is phenomenal. I'm always asking for more boos, it's really, really fun. They're cheering for all of the singing and dancing. They're so invested in Dorothy and her story. It's really, really exciting. It's not a form of theater that I'm used to, but I'm enjoying it so, so much.
It's the latest holiday pantomime following the long history of the Ross Petty productions, taking popular stories and giving them a local twist. And she's enjoying playing the villain.
It's deliciously fun to be evil sometimes. It's also great to be such a larger-than-life version of the Wicked Witch, because you get to kind of really enjoy that you're not really going to terrify anyone. You're not going to send any kids home crying, but you get to toe the line of not being the one that people are rooting for, and then having so much fun drawing them in and toying with people and having that relationship with the audience that by the end, they kind of are rooting for the Wicked Witch.
It's no coincidence this version of The Wizard of Oz is on stage at the same time the blockbuster film is in theaters. Unlike the big screen version, the audience is encouraged to react to what they're seeing on stage.
In a way, there's like this beautiful kind of release for younger audiences too that they don't always get to have. So, come for the laughs, stay for the cathartic release.
The Wizard of Oz, a totally awesome family musical, is on stage now at the Elgin Winter Garden Theatre until January 5th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
All right, one last look at the forecast. There's a live look at the city. Comfortable conditions if you're heading out. Yes, dress warmly, but you don't have to wear the most heavy winter coat. Looking at the satellite radar, there aren't not much going on. There's a few clouds, and that's about it, but no major system that's coming our way. Right now, we're pretty much where we should be temperature-wise. 0 in Toronto, +2 in Hamilton, +3 in Niagara Falls, and temperatures are rising. So for today, the high's +2. For tomorrow, Christmas Day, it's going to be -1, which is seasonal. It's going to be a white Christmas. No new snow's coming, but at least there'll be 2 centimeters on the ground, which is technically what is considered a white Christmas. And that means if the kids want to go sledding or tobogganing tomorrow, they can do that after opening up their presents.